And I came to speak to somebody today who has some triumph in your life, but you've also got some trouble. You've got some joy in your life, but you've also got some sadness. Along life's way, along this journey that we're on, God does not promise that it will all be good. Now, he did say in Romans 8:28 that he works all things together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. But based on the construct of that sentence, I take it to mean that if he has to work all things together for the good, that assumes that everything is not good before he gets a hold of it. That means there must be some stuff that's good, some stuff that's not. And what he does is he takes what's living and what's dying and he makes it all work together for the good to bring forth his purpose in your life. Say amen to that. If you've lived a little while, if you've ever lost anything, if you've ever been hurting but had to smile, if you've ever had something to celebrate about, and if you wait until it's all good in your life to give God praise and to be happy and to celebrate victories and to have peace in your heart and to enjoy what God has given you, you never will. Because it's never all good. Always in our lives, there's something being born, there's something dying. I have to accept as the pastor of a church, there are always going to be new people coming in and some people leaving. God bless them both, because God knows the ecosystem of his intention for my life. And he knows how to make certain things leave and certain things come, but he'll never leave me alone. That's one thing I can count on, that whether something's dying or whether something's being born, God is superintending my life. And he sees every loss and he sees every gain and he measures all my pain and he catches every tear and he knows what to give to me, and he knows when to give it to me, and he knows what he's assigned me, and he knows when to fulfill the order that he's placed on my life. That's verse 1. Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, if you got a female sitting next to her, touch her and say, call the midwife. So, I hate that show so much. I've never watched an episode. I think it's terrible. The midwife said to her, don't despair, for you have another son. God answered your prayer, Rachel. Don't despair, for you have another son. And sometimes we need midwives and people in our lives to help us see that even though we're experiencing pain, God is fulfilling his promise. Yeah, sometimes we need people in our lives to say, I know you can't see it right now because this is so painful for you and this is costing you so much, but God is giving you what you prayed for. And so she reminds Rachel of that prayer and that promise, don't despair, for you have another son. And as she breathed her last, something in your life is always breathing its last breath as something else is breathing its first. As her son cries for the first time, she cries her final tear in this life. And she breathed her last, and in her last words, with her last gasp, with the last breath in her body, as she was dying, she named her son Benoni. His father named him Benjamin. That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Benoni. Benoni. I have a phobia. It's a rather strange one. So go with me. I'm scared to ask people these days who are pregnant or expecting a child what they're planning on naming their child, because these days people are naming their children, put this in the right words, they're naming their children creative things. Very interesting names. Really interesting names. And it's their right to name their child whatever they want. And so the reason I don't want to ask is because I'm not very good at faking. And so if I say, what are you naming him? And they say something that I think is stupid, that's going to get the kid beat up, that's going to cause the kid to have low self-esteem, I'm likely to say something like, oh. And see, that's not the response that they're probably looking for. And so I quit asking people that question because it's just too much liability, honestly. With all the names that people name their children, it's just not a very pastoral thing to go, when someone tells you what they're naming their child. And so I don't want you to tell me your child's name and then I feel like slapping you. And so I just don't ask anymore what you're naming your kid. I'll just find out in private, and so I can have my own reaction. And so, but it's your right. In fact, my name, it's interesting. My first name is not Stephen. My first name is Larry. My name is Larry Stevens Furtick. Stevens, plural, Furtick Jr. Now the reason it's Stevens is because my father had his middle name misspelled on his birth certificate. And so rather than correct his birth certificate, he transferred the mistake on his birth certificate to my birth certificate. So my official name on the passport is Larry Stevens Furtick Jr. And praise God. But it could have been worse. It could have been worse. Touch somebody, say it could have been worse. Could have been worse. Because what my dad originally wanted to name me is what he had, and thank God for my mom who was in this worship experience, and I'm indebted to her in so many ways that my soul cannot number, but this one is chief among them, because what my father wanted to name me and would have named me left to himself, my father wanted to name me Clem. Let me tell you why. He wanted to name me Clem because my mother went to Clemson University. My father thought it would be fun, Al, to, when he called my name, say, Clem, son, come here, Clem, son. Can we all agree it would have been a whole different story of my life? Would you go to Pastor Clem's church? I mean, really, would you? Who's your pastor? Pastor Clem Furtick. But thank God, my mom got involved, and I appreciate that. There's worse names. There's worse names. In fact, does anybody have like a pad of notepad? Can I see your notepad, please? Thank you. I'll give it right back. Just want to write on this real quick. And does anybody have a marker? Not an Elevation pen, the official approved pen of Elevation Church, but like a marker, some sort of Sharpie of sorts. Yeah, that'll work. Thank you. Ready? I want to write this name down, and then I'll show it to you, and you can tell me how you would pronounce this name, because one of our staff members told me about a name that he heard about one time, and I'd never heard of this name. I'm gonna write it down, and you can tell me how would you pronounce this name. This is apparently an actual name, and I want to know how would you say that name. La, Le, La. You would be wrong, because of several of my constituents have already pointed out. The name is LaDasha. Absolutely. The name is LaDasha. Can we all agree that her parents should not be allowed under any circumstance to procreate and populate the earth? Can we all agree that that this girl's parents will not spend eternity in heaven? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, LaDasha. Why did they do you like? It's not supposed to pronounce different. Anyway, so that's why I don't ask people what they're naming their kid, because I'm scared they're going to say Clem. I'm scared they're going to say Ladasha, and I won't know how to respond. Rachel, with her last breath, says, name the boy Ben-Oni. Ben means son. Dash Oni. Oni. Oni is a little more complicated. Oni can mean two different things. It's a name that can go either way. It's ambiguous. It can mean, and most probably does mean, based on the context clues of this passage, it's a word that means sorrow. So as Rachel is breathing her last breath, she names her child son of my sorrow, and we understand why. For she realizes that although God has answered her prayer and added another son to her life, she will not be there to ever nurse him, to ever hold him, to ever soothe him, to ever care for him, to ever console him, to ever cheer for him, to ever celebrate him. And in the moment of knowing God gave me what I wanted, but I'm not even going to be here to experience it, she names her child out of her pain, and she calls him son of my sorrow. With that last breath in her body, she names him according to what she's going through as she produces him. Son of my sorrow. Oni, sorrow. Ben, son. Ben-Oni. What a name. Oni, however, can also mean, and it's open to interpretation. The word can mean both. It can mean sorrow, and it probably does in this instance, but it can also mean strength. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that fascinating? That the same word can mean both sorrow and strength. So she calls him Ben-Oni, son of my sorrow, or son of my strength. And I thought, this makes no sense as I was reflecting on it, that the same word could mean something so diametrically opposed, so mutually exclusive. How can it mean both sorrow and strength? But then I started thinking, what if those two things aren't as diametrically opposed as they appear on the surface? What if great strength is always born out of great sorrow? Perhaps real strength is only ever born out of real sorrow. Perhaps the strongest people you will ever meet have also experienced the greatest sorrow. Perhaps the greatest trials that you've ever gone through in your life are the very things that God used to fortify the greatest strength in your life. Strength and sorrow and strength. And if I need to bring an example forth for consideration, then I would suggest to you that Jesus, who had all power and all authority and still does. There's nobody stronger, nobody greater than him. Nobody who got up from the grave and folded his own linens before he left because he had a little extra time. Because he had the presence of mind to tidy up the place where he'd been lying for 3 days. Nobody but Jesus has that kind of strength. Nobody but Jesus has the kind of strength to hang there on a cross, and you could call forth legions of angels to protect you and get you down, but instead you utter with your last breath, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Nobody but Jesus has that kind of strength. Jesus who is coming again to judge the living and the dead. Jesus who is coming again on a white horse with a white robe dipped in blood. Jesus who is coming again to establish a kingdom that can never be shaken. Nobody has power like Jesus. Nobody is strong like Jesus. Nobody. But when Isaiah describes him, he says that he was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. See, it was the sorrow of his crucifixion that produced the power and strength of his resurrection. What if strength always comes from sorrow? I'm going to tell you, if you ever see somebody who's really strong, I guarantee you they've been through a lot of stuff, a lot of sadness. I guarantee you, if you ever see somebody who's really strong in this life, I don't care what they do, I don't care what their profession is, I don't care how easy they make it look, I don't care how seamless they've treated the transitions. If you ever see somebody with great strength, bet on it, somewhere, somehow, from somebody, something caused them great sorrow. Tozer said it's doubtful whether God can greatly use a man until he has greatly hurt a man. Sorrow produces strength. And I hope that helps you, because some of you are facing a situation today that is full of great sorrow. I wanted to let you know, however, that if you want to rename your sorrow, you can. And your sorrow today can become your strength for tomorrow. Yeah, the tears you're crying today might water the seed that's going to come forth in your life and bring forth something great tomorrow. I have a sad situation, but I have a great God. I have a lot of sorrow, but it's producing even more strength. And as she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Benoni. But Jacob named him Benjamin. That's kind of rude. Her dying request is, call my son Benoni. And Jacob says, no. I mean, you know he was hurting. You know he was more sorrowful than she was, because now he has to live without her, and she's the only thing that he ever loved. The Bible never even says that Jacob loved God, but it says that he loved Rachel so much that he worked 14 years to get her. I don't know if any of us love somebody that much. I mean, obviously I love Holly to that degree, but most of you husbands probably couldn't say the same. I worked 41 years for you, girl. And although he's sorrowful, we know he was sorrowful because at the end of his life, in Genesis 49, verse 6, he says, when she died, it was great sorrow to us. It wasn't that he didn't feel the sorrow. It's just that he refused to name the child that was born out of sorrow according to the sorrow that gave the child birth. He refused to name this child's destiny according to a moment in the child's history. He wouldn't do it. And so they come to him and they say, Jacob, we did all we could do. We could not save Rachel. She's gone, Jacob. She's gone. She lost too much blood. We couldn't recover her. She's gone. And the midwife comes up at some point and says, excuse me, I know I'm not supposed to speak unless spoken to. But there was one thing Miss Rachel said before she died. She wanted to make sure that you named him Ben-Oni. And Jacob says, don't think so. It does not say how much time passed between when she died and when Jacob renamed him. Perhaps it took him days, perhaps it only took him moments. But at some point, his father named him Benjamin. In antiquity, fathers, not mothers, have naming rights ultimately. I know that doesn't seem fair that the women do all the work and the dads pick the name, but that's the way it worked. And so Rachel is recommending a name, but Jacob has to ultimately sign off on it. I only point that out because I wanted you to know that people in life may recommend a certain name for you, but only your heavenly Father gets to sign off on it and approve it. Because fathers have naming rights. I'll stay here for a minute. See, because there's somebody in the room who's been labeled by somebody and called something based on something that you went through. And so they said you're hopeless and they said you're worthless. They might not have said it in those words, but they implied it in their tone and with the things that they think about you. But unless you make something, you don't get to name it. Only the maker has naming rights. And so, anyway, I was just praying that somebody would peel off a label that somebody has given you because of a moment in your life and say, I don't think so. Only the Father has naming rights. Only my daddy gets to tell me who I really am. And if what you say about me doesn't line up with what he sees in me, I don't want your label. I don't need your label. I don't respond to your name. Because fathers have naming rights. Good. So Jacob goes, I appreciate that. I understand why she named him son of my sorrow. I'm sad too. I'm hurting too. I miss her forever. I'll honor her forever. But I refuse to call him Benoni. I'm not going to name him based on what happened in that moment. I'm not going to look at this child the rest of my life and see him only through the lens of what I lost when he was born. Call him Benjamin. Now this sermon would probably go to a whole nother level if I told you what Benjamin means. Do you want to know what Benjamin means? I'm going to tell you in a minute. See, Jacob has a lot of experience with new names. It's a major theme of his life. If you've been paying attention, you've seen now that not only has Jacob been renamed, because he used to be Jacob and now he's Israel, and he's still kind of both, but he's ultimately triumphant with God, Israel, not the deceiver anymore, Jacob. But he's also, through his life and along his journey, renamed several places along the way. Bethel wasn't called Bethel before Jacob showed up. But when he met God at Bethel, he renamed that place. And it used to be called Luz. We called it Loserville the week I preached about it, and talking about how you can rename Luz and call it Bethel, which means the house of God or the gate of heaven. Because wherever God shows up, his presence creates heaven in that situation, even if it's hell. So he called it Bethel. One time when he was running from Esau, this is the second time that Jacob tried this trick. He renamed a place because he opened his eyes and he was really afraid, and he saw armies of angels surrounding him, protecting him. And so he called that place Mahanaim. Mahanaim in Hebrew means encampment of God, because he saw God camped out all around him. And he realized, I'm not in this by myself. I'm not fighting this battle on my own. I thought I was, but then I saw something spiritually that I couldn't see physically. So he renamed the place Mahanaim. Then there was that all pivotal point when Jacob received his name change, when he was wrestling with a man, and he wrestled with the man to the point that his hip was dislocated. And when he got done wrestling with the man and he realized that he had been wrestling with God all along and did not know it, he renamed that place and he called it Penuel. Penuel means face of God, because he said, I have seen the face of God and yet I didn't die. He renamed some places. He had been renamed himself. And now, at the most sorrowful moment of his life, he thinks to himself, wait a minute. if I can rename places, if God can rename me, maybe I can rename this too. And so he calls him Benjamin. I'm trying to figure out if you're ready to find out what Benjamin means yet, because when I saw it, I got so excited. I threw my computer to the side and did a dance in my office all by myself. When I read this in a commentary, I thought you would get excited. And if you don't act excited at this point, it is going to greatly violate my expectations and perpetually hurt my feelings. So I want you to lean in while I tell you what Benjamin means. Because if I was in another church and we hadn't been studying about Jacob for 4 weeks, I would have to explain this in detail because the background wouldn't make much sense. But since you've been paying attention, you're going to know what I mean right when I say it, and you're going to shout because it's going to make you so happy. Ben still means son. But when you put Jamin on it, you ready? It means son of. See, because Jacob, no, you got to get it. You got to get it. I need you to want to know, because Jacob is looking at a tragedy. Jacob is looking at a loss. Jacob is looking at pain. Jacob is looking at hurt. Jacob is looking at despair. And he said, I think I'll call him Benjamin, son of. Remember when Jacob, it's coming. Remember when Jacob went in to get the blessing that belonged to Esau? And Isaac couldn't see, and Isaac took his right hand and put it on Jacob, which was the hand that was reserved for the blessing of the firstborn. The right hand, no offense to you if you're left-handed. I don't mean to crush your spirit, but the right hand in Scripture is the hand of blessing, the hand of authority, the hand of power, the hand of blessing, the hand of authority, the hand of power. So when he names him Benjamin, now you're ready. Here's what Benjamin means. It means son of my right hand. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. So Jacob, all of his life, has been trying to get the right hand of blessing. But now, in a situation that other people would have called a curse, Jacob says, hold on a second, I got a right hand too, and it's time for me to use it, and I'm choosing to call this a blessing in my life. Call him Benjamin. Call him son of my right hand. Don't call him Benoni. Take the dash out and call that boy Benjamin. Call it a blessing.